श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्सन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः विषेमदेवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ प्रज्ञानां सुप्रदानैः स्थिरचरनिकरव्यापिभिर्व्याप्य लोकान् भुक्त्वा भोगान् स्तविष्टान् पुनरपि दिशनोद्भासितान् कामजन्यान् पीत्वा सर्वान् विशेषान् स्वपतिमधुरभुङ्मायया भोजयन्नः मायासङ्ख्यातुरीरं परममृतमजं ब्रह्म यत्तन्नतोऽस्मि। ज्ञानेनाकाशकल्पेन धर्मान् योगगणोपमान् ज्ञेया भिन्नेन सम्बुद्धः तं वन्दे द्विपदां वरम्। द्विपदां वरं वन्दे। I prostrate, salute the Paramapurusha, the greatest of the two-legged beings. So here, Dvipadam Varam is taken by Bhashyakara as Purushottama Sriman Narayana. So this is more a Mangala Charanam, which is generally done. Mangala Charanam is usually done at the beginning of any Grantha. Grantha Rambha is when the Mangala Charanam or prayer is done. But it is also a practice to do it at the beginning, at the end, as well as in the beginning, in the middle, so that the text finds its meaningful purpose, that it achieves it. Adyanta Madhya Mangala Grantaha Pracharino Bhavanti. The Grantha which has Mangala Charanam in the beginning, in the middle, as well as in the end, gain acceptance or flourishes. That is a belief, Shraddha. And we can see that this Karika has really met its intended purpose, because it is one of the cornerstone in the Vedanta Shastra for us to understand many things. In fact, all the darshanas, the Vaidika and Avaidika darshanas, which are in contention, have been dismissed through this Karika in a very elaborate fashion. And that also has helped people to gain clarity on Vedanta Shastra with reference to the other darshanas, other contentions which typically prevail at all ages. Think of it, no? So, what can be opposed to Advaita? There are only two broad contentions which can be opposed. One is obviously Dvaita. Okay, Dvaita means not just I am different, Ishvara is different, but the traditional, highly evolved Dvaita philosophies like Nyaya Vaiseshika and Sankhya, these are very strongly established Dvaita philosophies because they just don't say I am different, God is different, but they actually talk about 24 principles and all that, where they delineate the different kinds of padarthas. For example, take Nyaya, Sapta Padarthaha. There are seven things which are there in the world. Okay, the words attain meaning in seven contexts. Okay, there are seven padarthas. So there jati, guna, kriya, vastu, samavaya, all those things, right? Samanya, samavaya, abhava, and all this. Now dravya, guna, kriya. So these are the seven padarthas, and within that, each one of them are further analyzed. What are the dravyas? What are the gunas? Okay, the attributes, objects, okay, actions. This is what we see in the world. Okay, the whole objectified world, just looking at this world, you can arrive at certain realities, okay, which are fundamental to how we can define what exists. Okay, that is what Vaiseshika and Nayayika have done. They have classified the world into certain set of realities, okay, and which are seen as fundamental to how the world is evident to me. Okay, so there are substances, there are qualities, there are actions, and there are certain universal categories. Okay, substances means the panchabhuta, earth, water, fire, air, space, and then you have the qualities like attributes like color, taste, texture. Okay, though all these have been classified, and there are things which are categorized very clearly, and how they are formed, what is the relationship between them. Okay, when you say there are dravyas, are these dravyas independent or is there an interdependence? So they talk about samvaya. There is a sambandha between them, and there is also a samanya. Universality itself is also spoken about, common traits, and then intrinsic natures. All this. So when we say Dvaita, these people have highly evolved idea of how the world has to be looked at from a general, observation and classification perspective. A Vaiseshika and Nayayika has done a tremendous job in it. And then we have Sankhya, that is also a Dvaita. Sankhya also is kind of another kind of Dvaitin, where he talks about 24 things which are comprised of in the Prakriti, and then there is a Purusha also. And so they have their own philosophy in terms of how the evolution has happened, what is this observed world, and all this stuff. Okay, so these are what are who are called Dvaitins. Okay, at least in the context when this Grantha was written. Okay, so then you have the other end, which is what we call as Vainashikas or Bauddha. Many of them are there who are who dismiss. They are called Niratmavadi, or they don't have they don't accept that there is an underlying reality, but they recognize the Mithyatvam, not even Mithyatvam, Maya Tvam of the Jagat. Okay, there is whatever you are seeing is impermanent, but there is no underlying reality, it's all void. Okay, so these can be the only two, isn't it? All others or different variants of this. Either you have to take a position that all that is here is real. Okay, so there is the world that you are seeing is completely real, and it has all the dualities in place. It has certain categories of things, and then there is a relationship between them. There are certain commonalities between all of them. So all that is what, yeah, Naya Vaiseshika has spoken about, right? Where they are realist. Everything is real. Right? For real, you are just seeing. So it is there. Then there are some variants. Okay, somebody will say there is God. Someone will say there is no God, which is also part of the objectified world. So there is no difference. So I can say there is a God who is, who is sitting in Vaikuntha. Another guy can say there is a God who sits in Kailasa. Another guy can say there is no God. These are all well evolved by themselves, like many of the things like scientists and others say today, right? These are all what variants of the same dualistic philosophy that, yeah, uh, a Nayayikavadi or Vaiseshikavadi have proposed. And Sankyavadi also kind of integrates some of these things into one. But we have seen the difference between Sankhya and Naya Vaiseshika in the, I think, second or third Karika Prakarana itself, which we will see also going forward. So that is one set, dualism, right? And then the other set, who is non-Advaiti, is the Shunyavadi or the Vainashika or Bauddha, correct? So these are picked up. So in uh, uh, this Mangalacharanam, आद्यन्त मध्य मंगला ग्रंथाः प्रचारिणो भवन्ति इति अभिप्रेत्य, ओके, आदौ ओंकार उच्चारण वदन्ते परदेवता प्रणामवत् मध्ये अपि परदेवता रूपम उपदेष्टारं प्रणमति. That's what Karikakara says. Okay, so the paradevata is what is being prostrated to. Vande Dvipadam Varam. And who is this Dvipada? Sambuddha. Nyaya Bhinnena Sambuddha. Tam Vande Dvipadam Varam. So this is the Jnani also you can take. Sambuddha. Varam Dvipadam Tam Nyaya Bhinnena. Nyaya Bhinna Rupena. In this form, the Buddha who is there, okay, Tam Vande. Sambuddha. So this, like I said, na buddhena bhashitam. It is, it will be told there are like 102 or 103 karikas in this chapter. The contemporary philosophies in those days, like I said, are these two major pillars. One is Nyaya Vaiseshika Sankyas, who are Dvaitins. The other is Vainashikas, who are Bauddhas. So the Karikakara takes these people. No, Charvaka and others are not even considered very serious. Now, when these people are picked up, there also there was there in those times it is evident that there are these other philosophies used certain set of words, and lot of those that Buddhas used are being used in this particular chapter, and their understanding is reoriented. That is the attempt here. So that is why he, even in this shloka, the Karikakara uses the word Sambuddha. Okay, so there is Buddha here. There is Buddha, but he adds a prefix Sambuddha, and that is Ishvara. Sambuddhavan Nityameva Ishvaraha Narayanakhyaha is how Bhagavad gives understanding of this word Sambuddha. Okay, so the word Buddha is used. Buddha. Therefore, even later also, na buddhena bhashitam, again there directly Buddha is used. and the words that the Buddhist teachers used are also handled here. So we need to understand that. That is why this chapter, especially, many of the Kshanika Vijnanavadis find certain resonance. This Prakarana is called Alata Shanti Prakarana because couple of verses, honestly speaking, there are only two verses. Somewhere I think in the 80s or 90s in this chapter, somewhere 84, 85, I don't remember exactly. Somewhere around that place, there are couple of verses which talk about Alata Chakra, that is a firebrand. So it is like you hold fire in a stick or in some kind of rope, and then you make do chakra. It creates certain forms, right? Now, what even though you see different shapes and forms, all that is there is the one, that fire. So it is created by fire, it is sustained by fire, and it is resolved into the same fire. Likewise is what is this whole experience. So it is a imagery which is used to just show that. So this whole chapter has been named as Alata Shanti Prakaranam because that imagery is very apt. Okay. Like these two granthas, no, Shivananda Lahari and Saundarya Lahari. The texts were named as Shivananda Lahari and Saundarya Lahari, but those words are just, they appear in one shloka in each of them, right? Tanotu Kshemam Tava Vadana Saundarya Lahari. Tanotu Kshemam Naha Tava Vadana Saundarya Lahari Parivaha Shrota Sharaniriva Simanta Sharanihi Vahanti Sinduram Prabala Kabari Bharat Divirat Dusham Vrindair Bandikritamiva Naveenarka Kiranam. Okay. That Tanot Kshemam Naha Tava Vadana Saundarya Lahari, there that Saundarya Lahari comes in the context of a particular shloka. There the word is used to, in fact, the Keshadipada Varnanam is what is being done. And speaking about the Vadana and the Kabaribara of Shakti, that is used. But the whole book was named that way because of that shloka. Okay. Similarly, Shivananda Lahari also appears in one place. So anyway, coming back, because of that usage of that Alata Chakra here, this chapter has been named as Alata Shanti Prakarana. The Shanti is a resolution of that Alata into that ball of fire, the Prajnapti. So the whole Chitsava we often talk about, right, is Alata Chakra only, and it resolves into what? The Chaitanya Swarupa. ज्ञानेन आकाशकल्पेन धर्म अन्यः gaganopaman. Again, I feel this dharma is used for Atma here also because of the Buddhist context, Dhamma and all that. This that is why it's a very peculiar usage. The dharma is used, if you actually, as we go through, the Atma Dharma is referred to, and then it is resolved into actually Atma only. Nyayaihi dharmaihi atmabhihi abhinnam agni ushnavate. And it is said it is the same Prajnapti only is referred to by the word dharma. And the whole chapter Prakarana, when it concludes, the Atma, again this word dharma is used. At the beginning it is used, and then towards the end also this word dharma is used. So these things we have to keep in perspective. Okay. Also this Dvipadambaram Vande, the the prayer. It's very interesting to note that in this Grantha, Karika, Bhagavad Pada himself at the beginning he gave those two shlokas, right? Prajnanam Shupratanahi and the one more. And towards the end, he has given three more shlokas as a prayer to Paramaguru, Guru, and all that. Okay. And here we see that Karikakara himself suddenly in between introduces these two slokas. Okay. And it stands a little separate from the other three prakaranas, but then it does use few of the verses, repeats them here. So I don't know, it's a very interesting positioning. It does so, it doesn't give a sense that it was composed by somebody else, because same verses, same style of composition is here. But we can probably say Gaudapada Acharya maybe created this separately little later, and then it got added to the other three or something. I mean, I'm just speculating, because this in between these two prayers are coming, this one and the next one. Okay, in fact, he didn't give any big Mangala Charanam at the beginning, just the Omkara only was used. But here the specific prayers are there. That's why I was saying that. Okay, anyway, let's go to Bhashya. Omkara Nirnayadwarena Agamataha Pratignatasya Advaitasya बाह्य विषय भेद वैतत्याच्च सिद्धस्य पुनः अद्वैते शास्त्र युक्तिभ्यां साक्षात् निर्धारितस्य एतद् उत्तमं सत्यम् इति उपसंहारः कृतः अन्ते. We saw this briefly in the last session. Omkara Nirnayadwarena Agamataha Pratignatasya. The Agama, the Vedic portion that is called the Mandukya Upanishad, talks about Omkara and the Avastatraya and the Chaturiya, the fourth Avastha. So the Vishwataijasa Prajna was spoken about, Jagrat Swapna Sushupti was spoken about, Omkara divided into Akara, Ukara, Makara, okay. Then Amatra, Anantamatra and all that was spoken about. The Amatra was shown as the Brahman, which is the Turiya, and that Turiya is on which the Vishwataijasa Prajna are sustained. Therefore, all that is here is Brahma, is Shivam Advaitam, Manyate, and all that. And also, the Mahavakya also, Ayamatma Brahma, and all that were spoken by the Upanishad. So, the Omkara Nirnaya, Omkara, what is Omkara? And that is Vachalambanam, Vikaro Namadeyam, all that is here is name and form. The name is between A and Makara. So the Omkara itself is Brahman, okay, and everything is variant on Akara. All that was spoken about. So Nirnayadwarena Agamataha Pratignatasya. That is what is picked up by the independent work of Gaudapada. So the Pratignyata is what is the intent of revealing is what has been revealed by Mandukya in terms of Omkara Nirnaya. That is the Advaitam Chaturiyam Brahma. Turiyam, right? Advaitasya Bahya Vishaya Bheda Vaitatya. The difference between the Bahya Vishayas and the difference between this Brahman and Bahya Vishaya is Vitata. That was established. The Mithyatvam was established in the second Prakarana. Vaitatyacha Siddhasya. What is Siddham? Advaitam Siddham. That Advaita which has been established because the Dvaita is dismissed in the second Prakarana. The first Prakarana is Omkara Nirnaya. That is the Agama Prakarana. The second Prakarana is where the Dvaita, Dvaitasya Vitatam was established. Then the same Advaita in the third Prakarana, Advaite Shastra Yuktibhyam Sakshat Nirdharitaha, that has also been established in the third chapter by Shastra and Yukti, the Advaita Satyatvam, and the same thing, Uttamam Satyamiti Upasamharaha Kritaha, we saw in the last session. The Uttamam Satyam, this is the highest truth. Everything else is untruth. Therefore, this is the only truth. Therefore, he uses the word Uttamam Satyam Kritaha. Ante Tritiya Prakaranante. Now, Tasya Etasya Agamartasya Advaita Darshanasya Pratipaksha Bhuta Dvaitinaha Vainashigascha. This is what we spoke earlier today. The Agamartha, that is the Advaita Satyatvam, which is shown by the Agama Veda, that Advaita Darshana, the vision of Advaita, all that is here, if there is no Dvida, that is Advaita Darshana. Pratipaksha Bhuta, contrary positions are taken by the Dvaitis and Vainashikas, Bauddhas. Tesham cha Anyonya Virodhat Ragadveshadi Klesha Aspadam Darshanam iti Mithya Darshanatvam Suchitam Klesha Anaspadatvat Samyak Darshanam iti Advaita Darshanastutaye. Anyonya Virodha was already spoken about earlier in this Karika. All these different non-Vedantic, non-Advaita darshanas were picked up and shown that they oppose each other. Not only they are opposed to each other, they also have ragadvesha. They are not open. There is close to heart. The philosophies, because they own it. There is no pramana buddhi. You are not surrendering to any particular pramana, because otherwise you can ask the same question. You Vedantis also, Advaitis also, you are holding on to what you are saying. You are not understanding what we are saying is what they will say. But the point is, there is no need for us to have clinging. Raga is not necessary because it's not ours, not what we have created. But Kanada and all these people, the original teachers we are talking about, it is their own kalpitam. They don't go with any pramana. When Vaiseshika, Nayayika, or Sankhya, they talk about certain 24 principles, 25 principles, and all that, it is their own creation. So they have an emotional commitment and attachment to that particular philosophy because it is theirs. Okay, so there is one. That is why the raga is to be understood. And then dvesha. Dvesha is you are dismissing the other. See, the point is, we are so limited in our capabilities, all human beings. There is always a certain limit. Nobody is absolutely fully knowledgeable because the things we know is limited to what we observe and what we can enhance from our observation and do some inferences on. But we don't even know that we are seeing everything which is there. We only know about this one particular Milky Way galaxy, and within that also these five senses, whatever can get us, is what we all know. So there is a limitation. So if somebody comes up with some concept 24, 28, yeah, it can be fascinating for some minds, looking at the intelligence that these people have had, and it can also probably truly reflect an objective world. But a subject object connection is something that is not easily available to anybody because you only have an objectifying capacity. The subject is not available for objectification, and the connection between subject and these objects and the reality of how this creation is also is not easily understandable. The people who designed all these philosophies are gone some 2000 years since. Okay, they were all also specks in the flow of time. The time there is a huge Ganga flowing called Kala, right? Time. We don't even know how many millions of years have passed. So some whoever has written these philosophies are also they just came in point in time and went. So now we can't. So we need an independent pramana to reveal things. That is also there. These are all Kapola Kalpita. That's why Klesha Anaspadatva. So we look at the world as Shruti reveals it to us, and once it reveals, then we see the reality. We don't start with any Ragadvesha. We surrender to the Shruti Vakya. Therefore, there is a huge difference. So they are having Anyonya Virodha because someone will say 24, someone will say 30, someone will say Bhagavan only has flute in his hand, somebody will say Bhagavan will have only Trishula in his hand, someone will say this, that, as though they all know exactly what the Bhagavan is. Okay. It's all their own Ragadvesha, their emotional commitment to certain form, certain Purana. That's all. There, so there is no other way to establish or negate. That's why Ragadveshadi Kleshaspadam Darshanam Tesham Iti Mithya Darshanatvam Suchitam already has been shown. And also what has been praised is the Advaita Darshanam. Why Klesha Anaspadatva? So these Klesha, like Ragadveshadi Klesha, is not there in this. And whatever Dvaitins are saying, we accept those things in its own realm. See, we need to understand this point again. We again and again keep talking about this. We are not opposed to them. That actually Karikakara himself said, right? Somebody sitting on the elephant, when someone standing on the floor, if he also says, I also have an elephant, I am also sitting on it. Why don't you send your elephant on me? Suppose somebody says, this guy who is sitting on a real elephant will not send his elephant on him because he knows he is in a position to see what the other person is saying. The other person is not in a position because he's not sitting on an elephant. He doesn't even understand where he is sitting, and he's not open also. That's what to go and argue with somebody. Today's other they won't be open. It's very difficult because they have also been specifically told that this Advaita and all that is they are incarnation of some Rakshasa and all that. They have literally been, they are taught like that. Okay. Mayavadi and all that stuff. So there is no openness also. There is Ragadvesha. That Klesha is there, but for us, we understand where they are coming from. All the Dvaitins, because it's suppose, the story is there, no? There are many blind men looking at the elephant. Somebody says it's like a wall, someone says it's like a pillar, someone says all that. That we have so many times heard that. The person who is not blind can understand where each one is coming from. Whoever says, okay, this is like a pillar, we understand why he is saying it's like a pillar. When someone says it's like a snake, we understand why he is saying it is like a snake. When somebody says it's like a wall, we again understand because we have the complete picture of how an elephant is. Once you have the complete picture of elephant, you can easily understand what each one of those blind men is saying. Similarly, when you have a samyak darshanam, end to end, we understand the Dvaita Jagat, we understand the Vyavahara, we understand where an Ayyayika is coming from, where a Vaiseshika is coming from, where a Madhva is coming from. Because those are things all of us will undergo at some point. Not everybody is born a jnani, right? So drishti, a Dvaita drishti, how it is known. So we have absolutely nothing against. So there is no ragadvesha. We can clearly understand what is the situation. Therefore, we are not opposed. We don't oppose Dvaitins. Okay, we are that. So this Kanchi Paramacharya said the evolution of this is another way of looking at it. No, he said from being an Astika, you become first you understand Dvaita. that I am different, Ishvara is different, world is different. First you become a Bhakta. From there you become a Visishtadvaiti, where you see that it is all Saguna Brahma which is there. Bhagavan is not just one other person, but is all pervasive like a totality. Then you evolve into an Advaiti where the Nirgunatvam is established. So that's one way of looking at it. No? Like it's an evolution into this, because we have no problem with Saguna Ishwaran, right? So we also say there is Saguna Brahma. We have no problem with Avatara. We also accept Avataravada, right? And then, yeah, Avaidika Darshanas also we understand where they are coming from. So we are not opposed to anything. That's what Karika also very clearly said. We are not opposed. Klesha anaspadatvat samyak darshanam iti advaita darshanam darshanastutaye. Okay, then tadiha vistarena अन्योन्य विरुद्धतया असम्यक् दर्शनत्वं प्रदर्श्य तत् प्रतिषेधेन अद्वैत दर्शन सिद्धिः उपसंहर्तव्या आविद न्यायेन इति अलात शांति प्रकरणम् आरभ्यते. Okay, if all that has been done, why are you starting this new chapter? So he says vistarena, in detail, even though we have already spoken about it briefly in the earlier, prakarana, here anyonya viruddhataya, the mutual contradiction in detail, asamyak darshanatvam, they are not complete. If you take those interpretations of what exists, then it doesn't explain everything. Also, one dismisses the other. See, if your siddhanta is tight, it should not be dismissible by anybody. Then only it is the Samyak Darshan. Vedanta cannot be dismissed. You say there is what is the maximum, they will come and say. Dvaitin will say, oh, the duality is visible to me. I can see my body, I can see his body, I can see sun, moon, and star. So it is evident to me. I am able to see duality. Therefore, it exists. That's the maximum, right? Now we clearly show Drishyata Teva na Satyam. That's all. That once that is dismissed, then what else do they have as an argument? There is no. We have no problem with the Dvaiti. While we understand where they are coming from, it is very easy to see the fallacy of argument there. And another thing, the other end is the Vainashikas who will come and say nothing exists. Then we have to ask the question: Who understands that nothing exists? For whom is this knowledge coming? Right? Very simple question. So there is this, they can't come and dismiss it. How can you dismiss Advaitam? So the Advaitam cannot be dismissed at all, because Advaitam means the Jnaya Vastu is completely dependent on Jnata. Okay, and every Jnayam is pervaded by the Jnata, because without a Jnata Swarupa, any Jnaya Padartha doesn't have an Astitvam. It's a very simple fact. Okay, so how can they dismiss that? So if they have to dismiss, they have to show any one thing which can shed off the consciousness. Is there one thing that you show without consciousness there? If the fact that you are showing means you are conscious of it, simple. But consciousness can shed off everything. Therefore, this is Satyam and that is Mithya. So which Dvaiti can dismiss this? Therefore, we are not opposed to them. They think they have some very valid point by saying that the world is evident to me, therefore it should exist. But then we ask, even in dream, there are so many things become evident to you. Does that mean they exist? In fact, that argument again is going to come in the Karika also later. So, asamyak darshanatvam pradarshya, by showing the fallacious mutual conflicts, each one dismisses the other. Okay. Then finally, what happens? Like in the case of Brahma Sutra discussion, Sankhya alone remains. By Pratama Mallanyaya, finally we dismiss Sankhya also there. So here Karikakara Asamyak Darshanatvam Pradarshya Tat Pratishedena Advaita Darshana Siddhi Upasamhartavya. The root, you have to root Advaita. See, there is also one more thing he talks about here. Pratipaksha Pratisheda. is also this. When I say yatra yatra dhumaha tatra tatra vannihi, okay. So what is dismissed? What is established here? Whenever there is smoke, there should be fire. Okay. But it also needs to be shown when there is no fire, there cannot be smoke. Is also true, right? Similarly, yadyat kritakam tad anityam. All that is being created, it is anityam. That is an anvaya. But take the contrary, no? Yet na anityam. That means it is nityam. Tat kritakam. Na tat kritakam. That is not created has to be shown by a Vitireka. Because that Vyabhichara can be there. That kind of a doubt can be there. You are only saying whatever is created is anityam, but whatever is nityam is not created also needs to be established. So there is also another way of doing the Pratipaksha Pratisheda here. Okay. That also is one another thing which is being picked up by this fourth chapter. That's why the fourth chapter also is essential, because that has so far not been covered. So vistarena अन्योन्य विरुद्धतया असम्यक दर्शनत्वं प्रदर्श्य तत्प्रतिषेधेन अद्वैत दर्शन सिद्धिः उपसंहर्तव्या. The pratisheda has to be done in a way that it becomes even tighter. That is the avita nyaya. Avita nyaya, in fact, Tikakara explains that avita nyaya actually. Okay. Vita. Okay. Avita nyaya is actually Vatireka nyaya. What is the word Vita? Visheshena spashtamitaha Vitaha. Sana bhavati iti avitaha. Okay. That avitaha eva avitaha. He explains. Okay. Visheshena spashtam, it is clearly, it is extremely clear. Okay. That is Vitaha. Avita is not so. Na bhavati, sana bhavati iti avita. Avita nyaya is Vitireka nyaya. Okay. Opposite counter nyaya, the one that I explained, right? The anityatvam and all that. Avita nyayena iti alata shanti prakaranam arabhyate. It is started. तत्र अद्वैत दर्शन संप्रदाय कर्तुः अद्वैत स्वरूपेण एव नमस्कारार्थः अयम् आद्य श्लोकः. The Advaita Sampradayakर्ता. Who is Advaita Sampradayakर्ता? Ishvara only. Narayanakyah is going to say. Narayanakyah Purushottamaha. See that Ishvara only, who is called Narayana. Ishvara means Ishanath, the one who has Ishitatvam on everything. That Narayanakyah only is the one who created the Sampradaya. Advaita Darshana Sampradaya Kartuhu Advaita Surupena Eva Namaskara Nyaya Bhinnaha Jnanena Akasha Kalpena Gaganopaman Dharman Yaha Nyaya Bhinnaha Sambuddhaha Tammande. So it is the Advaita Brahman only is in the form of this Akasha Kalpa Jagat. So the Jagat Karanam is also here taken up. Why? Because Dharma is spoken. Okay, Akasha Kalpa. So the Gaganopaman Dharman Yaha Jnanena Akasha Kalpena Jnaya Bhinnena. The Jnaya Vastu is same as Jnapti Jnanam. What is known as Jnayam is actually Jnapti only. So that is Advaitam. So because Advaitam is what is the Darshanam here, the Sampradaya Karta, which is Ishvara, is also shown clearly as Advayam Brahma only. Ishvara is Sagunam. The Guna is only Adhyasikam, Adhyastam. So from the Karyam perspective, the Karya Jagat perspective, it is the same Brahma which is in the form of Ishvara, and that is the Advaita Sampradaya Krit. Sampradaya Krit Tasya Kartuhu Advaita Swarupena eva in the Swarupa in its true form which is Advaita Swarupa Namaskara Ayam Shloka. The shloka is composed as a Mangalacharanam, that surrender to that Ishvara, because there is absolute surrender. Absolute surrender, because there is no kartrutva with this author. Author doesn't have any objective. He is not praying saying, may this book be studied by everyone. There is no such prayer. He just says, I am prostrating to you. That's all. Jnanakasha kalpena dharmanya. There is no specific prayer request. Gaganopaman nyaya bhinnena sambuddha tam vande dvipadambaram. I prostrate, I surrender because I am, because of that Ishvara. There is no other reason. Why should I surrender? Because whatever is little bit ahankara is left also, I just let it go. That is the surrender. And I have no prayer. It is, I have no objective. I just have a duty. The duty is I should do this because it's the Ishvara Sankalpa. That is all. Not that I want everybody to learn Vedanta. That kind, it's not that kind of a thing. Okay, that's why there is no that kind of a prayer here. It is Namaskar Artha. That's all. Not even Prarthana Artha. Namaskar Artha Adya Shloka. आचार्य पूजा ही अभिप्रेतार्थ सिद्ध्यर्थे इष्यते शास्त्रारंभे. Okay, Bhashyakara says Acharya Puja is essential when you initiate a Shastra, because Abhipretartha Siddhye. So if you have a liking for a certain end, okay, it automatically happens. Okay, Abhipretartha Siddhyartha Ishyate. Okay, suppose you have an Abhipraya. This is Bhashyakara says, but whereas Karikakara hasn't specifically asked for it, he has done just a prostration, that's all. Bhashyakara says, if you do that, you will get Abhipretartha Siddhi. Okay, so whatever you want, it you will gain. Because any hindrance, see, why should a hindrance come? For any grantha, the obstruction is due to what? It is linked to your own karma and the karma of the people who are supposed to receive it. These only can be, suppose I want to teach. I take up to teach. Then there is a hindrance. The hindrance can be due to my own karma. Some papa I have, I am not able to teach. That's one possibility. The other one is the listener who is supposed to benefit from it. That person's karma also can hinder for me to teach. Right? If everybody has a karma, if one person has a karma issue, that person may not attend. But in general, the prabalatvam is there, then this can also happen. Okay, so these kind of vignam will go when you surrender your own ego, right? Everybody surrenders, then that person's kartritva bhoktritvam is not going to come in the way. It will just, whatever is Ishvara Sankalpa will happen, that's all. Therefore, Abhipretartha Siddhi is by default happen because you are not involved there. So your karma is not going to influence because you have no sense of ownership to what you are doing. You just let Ishvara play. That is what is here. So here Karikakara doesn't have his own prayer. He just surrenders. That's all. Abhipredartha Siddhyartha Ishyade Shastrarambhe. Akashena. And so why does he have to, in fact, okay, one more question can be asked, then why does Bhashyakara have to say Abhipredartha Siddhya Ishyade Shastrarambhe? In fact, one other question that is generally asked is, if Karikakara has to do a prayer, no, he can just do the prayer in his mind. Okay, or go to a temple, break one coconut, come and start the Shastra. No? Why does he have to write one verse saying prayer? So generally that is explained, that is for letting the Shishyas and the readers know that you should do prayer. Okay, if he had just done a prayer by himself and didn't write it in the text, how will you know that he has done a prayer? He can't record and say, I went to temple today, Kapalishwara temple today morning. We can't write like that. So it is only for educating people, is what is generally said. That's why here also we can take that Bhashikara is saying this so that you know that when you write a grantha, you should do the shlok, Acharya Puja. It is to tell you आकाशेन ईषदं समाप्तम् आकाशकल्पा आकाशतुल्यमिति एतते आकाशकल्पम means akashatulyam because it's not akasha is not exactly like atma because akasha also is with certain limitation. In deep sleep there is no akasha. When akasha is there, atma is there, but atma is there even when akasha is not there. Therefore it is almost like akasha because in the objective world the closest to sarvavyapi brahman is akasha because it also is all pervasive and it is sukshma. Okay, tena akashakalpena jnanena kim dharma anatmanaha dharma dharmanyaha gaganopaman किं विशिष्टान् गगनोपमान् गगनम् उपमा येषां ते गगनोपमाः तान् आत्मनः धर्मान् ओके धर्मान् आत्मनः धर्मान् that is akashakalpena jnanena in the form of akashakalpa the atma dharmas which are gaganopaman which is like gagana ज्ञानस्य एव पुनर्विशेषणं ज्ञेयैः धर्मैः आत्मभिः अभिन्नं ज्ञेयाभिन्नः ज्ञेयाभिन्नः सम्बुद्धः ज्ञेयाभिन्नः ज्ञेयैः धर्मैः आत्मभिः अभिन्नम् अग्नि उष्णवत् सवितृप्रकाशवच्च यज्ञानम्. So this agni is not separate from ushna. So the ushnatvam when added with certain fuel becomes agni, otherwise it is latent heat. The latent heat when added with some fuel becomes a fire. A spark can burn the entire forest because the forest becomes the fuel for the spark. Similarly savitri prakasha, the prakasha only is savita, sun. You cannot say sun's light, the light is sun, right? Similarly, Ushna is Agni. Similarly, Jnanam only Jnaya Dharma. You understand? That is the Alata Shanti. Alata Chakra. Not Shanti, Alata Chakram. So that whole formation of the fire band is the fire only. Like that. Jnanam Jnayaihi Dharmaihi Atmavihi Abhinnam. ज्ञानस्य एव पुनर्विशेषणम् तेन ज्ञेयाभिन्नेन ज्ञानेन ज्ञेयं means that all that is known is you say there is vishaya buddhi vishayam or jnana vishayam is jnayam. The jnana vishayam is not away from jnanam or vritti, jnana vritti, and jnata also is not away from jnapti. Jnana vritti is not away from jnapti. So jnata is jnapti. Jnayam being non-different, not being away from the jnanam is also jnapti. The process of jnanam, which is the vritti, is also jnapti. Therefore, all that is here is only jnapti brahma. Tena jnayabhinnena jnanena akasha kalpena, like akasha, which is wherever it's sukshma, but it is all pervasive. ज्ञेयात्म स्वरूप अव्यतिरिक्तेन गगनोपमान् धर्मान्यः संबुद्धः संबुद्धवान् इति संबुद्धवान् नित्यमेव ईश्वरः यः नारायणाख्यः तं वन्दे अभिवादये. I am prostrating to that Narayana who is an Ishvara, who is Sambuddhavan, okay, Nityameva Sambuddhavan, who is in the form of the knowledge, the knowledge which is the manifestation. Sarvajna. Ishvara is Sarvajna. Sarvam Janati, Sarvam Janyascha. Both Sarva Vetritvam is there. Then Yapti Swarupena Sarvatvam is there. Sarva is Ishvara only. In fact, Lord Shiva has a name called Sarvaha. So all is what Ishvara's Jnanam only. So Sambuddhavan all the time is in the form of knowledge, which is the manifestation. Like you are, the whole manifested dream is you. So it is you are a Sarvajna from dream perspective, Sarvavit. So Yugapat, you know everything in dream. Similarly, Yugapat, Ishvara is everything here. That jnana. Therefore, Sambuddhavan iti Sambuddhavan Nityameva Ishvaraha Yaha Narayanakyah Tam Vande. That Ishvara who is in the form of knowledge of all that is there. That Ishvara is given the name Narayanaha. That Narayana I prostrate to. Jneyayir dharmaihi atmabihi abhinnam agni ushnavat. Just like fire is not separate from heat, so too whatever Jnaya dharma is there of Atma, okay, that is not separate from the Atma itself. Through the Satta and Spurti, it is present in anything and everything which is in the form of the manifest Jagat. Dvipadam varam, Dvipadopalakshitanaam Purushanam varam pradhanam Purushottamam ityabhiprayah. Narayana is also called Purushottama because he is the greatest among men. Here Bhagavan is being seen in the Pauranika form by Bhashyakara because Karikakara also uses the word Dvipadam varam. That is why the Karika, if you take it as talking about Guru, okay, then you can say is greatest among people. Dvipadam varam vande sambuddhaha. The Jnani, who is my Guru. So the Jnani is greatest amongst men. You can take like that. Even though Bhashikara takes it as Narayana, but since the word Dvipadam varam is used, so because the Dvipadatvam is specifically about human beings, right, who are in this jagat. So then jnanena akashakalpena dharmanyaha gaganopaman nyaya bhinnena sambuddhaha tammande dvipadam varam can be taken as for jnanis because sambuddhaha is used. The one who has knowledge of this Brahman which is nyaya bhinnam. So those Brahmajnanis who are the greatest amongst men, I prostrate to them. That can be for the Guru Parampara and Sampradaya and all that. Nothing wrong in taking that way also. But Bhashikara takes Dvipadambaram as Purushottamam Narayanam here. Dvipadambaram, Dvipadopala Kshitanam, Dvipada Upalakshitanam, Purushanam Varam Pradhanam Purushottamam iti Abhipraya. Upadeshtru Namaskara Mukhena Jnana Jnaya Jnatru वेदरहितं परमार्थतत्त्वदर्शनं इह प्रकरणे प्रतिपिपादितं प्रतिपक्षप्रतिषेधद्वारेण प्रतिज्ञातं भवति. Okay, so the Pratipakša Pratishedha only is the intent in this chapter, and there is lot of coverage on Vainashikas here. I don't think any of the other granthas go so elaborate in dismissing Vainashikas, which is done here, and also the Ajativada is further picked up and established by dismissing the Nyaya Vaiseshika and others. Therefore, this chapter is about dealing with the other darshanas in appropriate way. Okay. So we'll see in the next session. There's some question. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Dvaita philosophy is greatly propagated post Shankar's time. If so, why much discussion? No. This Dvaita is this is about Nyaya Vaiseshika that we are talking about. Dvaita philosophy that is there currently is Madhva philosophy, which came after much later than Shankara's time. But the Nyaya Vaiseshika Sankhya are also called Dvaitins because they also don't accept Advaitam. Okay, so though he uses the word Dvaita here, it is not Madhva's Dvaita. This is Vaiseshika, Nyaya, and Sankhya philosophies, which also are Dvaita philosophies because they say the world is dual and has many principles and all that. Okay.
धन्यवाद.
Okay.